Arsenal win back possession, and it's broken nicely to Cazorla, 30 metres from goal, plays it to the edge of the area. Alexis Sanchez goes for goal and scores. That's a brilliant goal from Alexis Sanchez. He's been Arsenal's star man this season, and maybe now they're going to get the right to win.
Hello and welcome to Gooners in USA, where we discuss all things Arsenal. Mike, happy holidays.
Happy holidays to you. No intro song today, but we won.
We did win today. We did. Well, we're potting so quickly after the win that I didn't have a chance to shuffle through my MP3 player and pick out a song. 'Tis the season to be jolly.
There we go. That was a nice attempt.
Thank you.
Well, happy Boxing Day.
Happy Boxing Day.
I don't know if you, like me, are doing the podcast in your boxers, but...
No, I thought boxing meant that you boxed your significant other.
Well, good thing that mine's in New York then this week.
Well, mine won, so it was a clear TKO.
Nice. Andy, congratulations on our 20th podcast.
Hey, congrats to you, too. I didn't think we'd make it past 10, so...
I didn't think we'd make it past 3, but yeah, we this week we've actually, in celebration of our 20th pod, we had some great interactions this week with a bunch of new listeners, both new and longtime listeners, and... You know, I don't know if it's just the holiday season or what, but I'd like to announce that I've decided not to run my contract down, and I've re-signed with Gooners in the USA. So I'm going to drop some of my 46 other pods, not all of them, but some of them, to focus on this one.
Great. Thank you for doing that.
Yeah, it's big news, but you're not going to want to see the wage packet I got. So we're going to keep that.
Well, you know, if I know Wendy like I think I know Wendy, I'm sure she came up huge with those Baconators.
Yes.
Yeah, we'll talk about the whole we'll talk about the whole contract thing in a little bit. But happy holidays to all of our listeners. Excellent.
Absolutely. Belated Merry Christmas. And for our Jewish listeners, we know that you're still celebrating Hanukkah. So I'm going to dedicate a part of the show to all the famous Jewish Arsenal players of the past. Andy, do you know all of the Jewish players that we've had?
Rami Shaban?
Well, you keep going.
That's it.
Well, you're forgetting about Yossi Benayoun, but what most people don't know.
Oh, that's right. Yossi, but you also have the special pack from the 80s and 90s, Freddie Lundberg. He's Jewish?
I'm assuming. Well, I mean Lundberg. I'm assuming. We also have Nigel Winterberg, Paul Murstein, and David O'Learowitz. So
yeah. I forgot about those guys.
Yeah, I mean you got to add those to to your basic list of Jewish Arsenal players. And there might be more, but mercifully I ran out of time to write that. So,
well, happy Hanukkah to you, Mike.
Yes,
and,
thanks.
Merry Christmas and happy Kwanzaa, and whoever else listens. Enjoy your holiday season. Be safe. Be smart.
And goodbye. Oh, sounds like we're saying goodbye, but we're just getting started.
So let's start off with our question of the week. So this year in the FIFA Club World Cup, video replay was used for the first time to award a penalty. So, Mike, if you could add something to the game of football, what would it be and why?
Why don't we get your answer to this first?
So I think I would, excuse me, I would add a contraption to the back of the seats that allow the fans to vote just once during a match. And this button would be a bullshit button.
Like a phone a friend.
Basically, it'd be a bullshit button. And if at one moment the bullshit button is pressed by we'll think of it at another time, mass percentage of the stadium, then we get to allow a video replay on the screen. So we watch the said incident on the screen, and then the fans again agree if it's bullshit. And if it is bullshit, then a punishment for the referee ensues.
Okay.
Yeah.
What kind of punishment are we talking about?
It could be many different things. It could be making the official wear a Borat thong for the rest of the match.
That's attractive. Like to see Martin Atkinson in that.
Yeah, maybe making the official spin a wheel, and it's got a bunch of talents, hidden talents on it, and he has to perform one of them. Just absolutely making them look like a fucking idiot.
Nice. Yeah, well...
Maybe there could be another option in the game, Mike, where you force the official to maybe book for time wasting a tad earlier in the match, so when your team scores in the 86th minute, that accrued time doesn't add up.
Exactly.
And then at the end of the match, you're thinking, oh my God, West Brom might actually nick something from us every time they move forward.
Yeah, I think we should talk to FIFA about that specific situation. It's funny that you mentioned Borat, actually, because on Christmas Eve, I had the honor of watching Borat with my 15-year-old daughter.
Oh, God.
Which possibly one of the most uncomfortable 90 minutes in recent memory for me. I mean, it was like right up there with the Man City game. Like, worst 90 minutes I've spent over the last couple of weeks. But funny movie, not necessarily what you want to be watching with your teenage daughter. But
nope.
As for the innovations in the game, I'm going to have to go with a moat. There's not enough moats in the world, first of all. And, you know, this isn't a common complaint about football, but we've seen too many high-scoring games this year. And up until today, finally broken, but we hadn't seen a clean sheet for like 8 weeks. So, you know, Mustafi's out for 2 months with a hamstring. Oh, yeah? Try to counterattack against our ass with a fucking moat 30 yards from the goal. So, I mean...
So is this something that you're going to construct pregame, or is it something where you get a 1-0 lead and then you get to drop the moat?
You know, that would actually be better. You just kind of you press the bullshit button on the back of your seat, and a majority of the fans get to select when the moat appears. It's there, but it's just covered by a little bit of grass. And I mean, unless you're Charlie Adam or Aaron Ramsey and you're just going to shoot from midfield every time, you know, you're going to struggle against the moat.
You know, I don't think our team would, though, because we've got Xhaka. And so I feel like if you give him the ball every time and he shoots, one of them is going to hit the back of the net.
I don't know. Xhaka seems like he might need to recalibrate that foot a little bit after today.
Yeah, he was begging a little bit today.
Just a little bit.
So, we got the 3 points, Mike.
Good innovation. Yeah, I spent 86 minutes being pretty fed up with what I was seeing. And you know, I am the first person to say that it doesn't matter how you get the 3 points. You get the 3 points. But given that we're, you know, podcasting about a minute after the end of the game, I can't promise that there's going to be a whole lot of positive things to say today until the end. But
I thought the same thing. I thought we were kind of clutching at straws, and the lineup took me by surprise with Giroud starting. I didn't think we would see that, but I guess with the rotation in the squad, it just seemed as likely as now more than ever.
Do you think that was forced by the apparent injury to Theo of the calf strain that's apparently going to keep him out for 4 months?
Yeah, it must have been. It must have been. I mean, you're right. It probably will be a 4-month out for Theo, but it must have been something that was, you know, sprung on us by surprise. So, you know, I feel like I'm getting sick and tired of Giroud over. Just he falls over too much for me, and he looks up at the sky way too much with frustration. And I wonder if it's because he's shit or if because he really thinks he can do better. And it's just there's too much of him sitting on the ground, throwing his arms up in the air, looking at the official. It doesn't work. Now I know he scored
the body language.
Right, I know he scored the winning goal today, but I want to see more from him. He was given the opportunity to start, and what do we have? Only one shot in the first 45 minutes.
Did we even have one?
I thought we had one.
We
came from Sanchez.
I mean, we had shots. They just not shots.
Yeah, I think that one was Sanchez who troubled Foster. But I feel like if you're given the opportunity, you've got here for me, Mike. Lucas did more in his 16 minutes when he was on the pitch than Giroud did for the full 90. Sans the goal, like he scored the goal, but I felt like Lucas did a lot more.
I like how you use the French word to describe sans the goal.
And I did that for our French listener who emailed us.
Our French listener.
Who emailed us that I didn't offend last week during the pod.
And I'm not even sure that was him because this person listened in France, and our French listener that emailed us that we'll get to is actually in Reading right now. So
he's still French.
Yes. Okay. Well.
Nice guy though. Thanks for the email.
Absolutely. Yeah. I kind of thought that we'd see Giroud, you know, get up for the challenge of proving that he's not just a super sub. I liked the fact that Gibbs got a chance to start.
Yep. I hope he's not too injured. He took some knocks today.
Yeah, definitely. But I was intrigued by the lineup. Again, I've promised not to read too much into the lineup until after the game. But they made some changes today. So
it's nice though. It's nice though that you see the lineup and you see Nacho dropped, Gibbs step in, and you don't feel a sense of frustration or nervousness by it.
No,
we have that depth where, if you see Coughlin get dropped or Xhaka and Elneny gets put in, you're like, yeah, I'm comfortable with that. Even with the whole Giroud situation, you're like, all right, hopefully he won't fall over like a Pratt the whole game. And he made the impact that we all expect from him. But it's nice to have that depth and feel comfortable, and let's hope that Gibbs is healthy enough to get a run of games in the new year too. Absolutely.
So what do you think about the tactics early on?
I just don't understand. We knew how Tony Pulis would come to Arsenal today.
By train.
He hitchhikes, Mike.
Yeah, that's true. He relies on the kindness of others to get to where he needs to go.
No, he does. But we all knew that he would come and sit for 65, 70 minutes, parking the bus, playing 10 men behind the ball, and then if you notice at the 65th minute mark, he decided to make that tactical change where he thought, okay, I'm going to put on some attacking players because we might be able to nick this. And I just don't understand why Wenger doesn't see a counter tactic for this. I mean, we know his strategy. So, it's 7 years now. Arsene doesn't know how to counter tactic a manager. It's the same thing every match.
Yeah. I mean, it seems like there's a plan A and then there's a plan A, and it's not going to change. And I was talking on Twitter with kind of bantering back and forth with some people about the frustration at the time. And, it's kind of ridiculous that people are saying, we're getting forced to play narrow against their defense because they don't want us going wide and crossing balls to Giroud. Why are we getting forced to do anything?
Right. I mean,
we should be forcing the issue, not being forced. It shouldn't be so easy to just call our bluff and play the way that needs to be played with inferior players and talent on the field and cause us to struggle. So
that's a great tactician where you force a team to do something.
Yeah.
And Wenger should have seen that and said to the boys before the game, if they force us to go narrow, let's push it wide. More overlap runs from our left and right backs. Spread the wingers out further. Central defensive midfielders or central midfielders push wider a little bit, or try and switch the passage of play. Like, that's how you do it. I don't understand why we get just dummied all the time. I mean, this keeps happening. We should have known from minute one that was Pulis' tactics.
Yeah, I mean, we have better players than 16 or 17 of the 20 teams out there in the Premier League. Mm-hmm. Maybe 18 or 19, but we don't have the better tactics, and it's getting kind of frustrating. But hey, again, we're gonna stay positive because tactics aside, we ended up winning today.
No, absolutely. There was a 5-minute spell, Mike, where I really liked Sanchez and Iwobi making runs at the defenders. And it really made them struggle because we were pushing the defenders to make decisions on the fly, and we were forcing them back. And you see it a lot with the Ox and Theo, where they take one or two defenders and they run straight at them. During that 5-minute spell, we were really dangerous. Sanchez got that shot that we were talking about in the first half. And Iwobi at least pushed the ball into the box and made, again, the defenders and Foster think about what was happening. Too many times we sat on top of the 18 and we're just pinging balls left and right, waiting for that. And then fancy backheel that went astray to Foster to pick it up. Like, I want to see more of Iwobi running at defenders because he's got the skill.
Yeah. He needs to add. He's got the finesse. He needs to add the power to his game because too many times there was a little too much tiki-taka going on in the box when it would have been a more direct approach. Might have seen at least more than the one shot on goal.
Mm-hmm.
And the 5-minute spell was fantastic, but there was a 40-minute spell where they didn't do that at all, and that was part of the problem.
No.
So what do you think, Andy, about Mesut? Obviously, he's had his fair share of critics over his playing style, which it's the only time in the world I ever hear the word languid is in regards to Mesut Ozil. And early on in the 17th minute, I saw a guy just shooting down the right side, assumed it was Bellerin, and Alexis just hit a sublime pass forward to this guy, and come to my surprise, it was Mesut Ozil running onto that pass at full speed, mind you.
Well, and
unfortunately, was that it for the first half?
Well, the cheeky backheel to force the corner too, because I don't think he would have been able to control, turn, and get that cross. But what better way to try and encourage a player to sign a new contract with Arsenal than have a bunch of idiot fans blast him on social media left, right, and center? I mean, give us a break. The guy has had a couple off games, and we talked about it on the last pod. Henry, Bergkamp, Vieira, they all have off games too, and it's peaks and valleys, and Ozil is just in a valley right now. And he's one of the smartest players on the pitch. And I don't think he's lazy, Mike. I think he's just very intellectual with, I'm not going to overrun for that because I'm not going to get it. Why waste that energy? I mean, typical German, right?
Well, he's not lazy. He's languid. And who was the last Premier League player to be called languid as often as Mesut Ozil is? I'm thinking of a guy right now that just fit the description.
Is he Jewish?
No, he's not Jewish. He's Bulgarian.
Bulgarian. Oh, yeah, Berbatov.
Absolutely. I mean, the last guy, Mesut at least isn't smoking a cigarette on field, basically. But Berbatov was the same way. Just pure class. I hate to say it because he was a spud at one point and also a mank. But just you don't look like you're working that hard, but you have just more talent in the tip of your pinky. You thought I was going somewhere else.
You were going to say penis.
No, you were going to say that.
If it's not a Gooners in USA podcast if we don't mention the male genitalia at least once.
Exactly, or at least 8 times. But yeah, it's just that type of player. And you know what? I'm willing to give him the benefit of the doubt. And I think he's gotten it very, very rough these last 2 games, especially considering the season he's had so far statistically. But such is the Arsenal fan base right now.
Well, and if you look at
who got the assist today?
Well, exactly. But if you look at who's on the bench that I'm guilty of this, right? But today it kind of highlighted for me with Ramsey. You can't take Ozil off and replace his skill or ability to make those passes in the final third, because I don't think Ramsey could have put that cross right on Giroud's head. And for Giroud to be able to put the mustard on it, to just drop it over the keeper, the cross has to be sublime, and it absolutely was. That's what Ozil brings to Arsenal.
Absolutely.
I don't think Ramsey could have done that. I think Wilshere has the ability to do that if he stays healthy. I think he's got the 100% the ability.
Right? The only way he's going to stay healthy, though,
if he's not playing for us.
If he stays with Bournemouth,
right? But the whole Ozil responding to critics, he got an assist today. Hopefully that's a little bit of a boost. I would like to see him get a rest. But I feel like the FA Cup is maybe our best opportunity to win silverware, Mike. So the only way you can rest him is you give him the next match off.
You've got to rest him. You've got to rest him against Preston. I'm not saying you rest him for every FA Cup game. But.
No, absolutely. But yeah, that's right. We do have Preston and the FA Cup, man. First day, Cinderella teams.
Yeah, it happens. But yeah, I read something on Twitter today about someone who was at the game complaining that people around him were telling him that Ozil should be coming off and Elneny should be coming in for Ozil. This is, of course, before the goal. But let's kind of keep it under control, Gooners.
Seriously, what did you think of Giroud's first half performance, Mike?
First half performance, he was awful. Oh, he was awful. I've discovered thanks to Danny from Burkett Wonderland, which there's my obligatory mention. I have to say it every pod, but yeah, Opta scores are interesting to follow because it kind of gives you a sense of the run of play a little bit. And he had an Opta score of 5.9 in the first half, and anything below 6 is just dire. And It was horrible. I mean, he was the lowest on the field by either team by an entire almost half of a point, which is huge.
Well, at the end of the day, if that's a race, half a second, that's a lot.
Do you know where he ended the game?
Well, I missed
7.7
because of the goal.
Yeah, but I mean, I don't know whether it's tactics. In the first half, did we cross the ball one time to him, not including corners? I don't think that we did. And frankly, I'm not sure that it was, Giroud wasn't in position to receive a cross. So, I mean, at halftime, I'm thinking, game plan, yo. I mean, what's up?
Yeah.
What's up?
I'll be honest with you.
Yeah, boy.
Yeah, boy. Jesus. We've hit rock bottom, folks. We have hit rock bottom.
I have a clock around my neck.
I will say, before the goal was scored, there was a moment where we played the ball forward and there was fucking no Arsenal attackers. I'm thinking, we've got Sanchez, Giroud, and Lucas, and they were all in our half of the pitch. And I was thinking to myself, when Xhaka pinged that ball forward, which was ultimately a bad pass, you would think that Giroud should have been that highest player because he is ultimately the player we use to hold and pass, right?
Yeah, I mean, if Giroud's in the game, then we shouldn't be playing that whole thing where the number 9 vacates the front and someone else runs onto the spot. I mean, that's fine when Alexis is in, but
we talk about lazy players. I love a striker who literally sits either on the last defender or maybe 5 yards off the last defender, and with a player of Giroud's talent who has the ability to hold up play and then make a decent give and go. That would be perfect for him. And I get that he wears his heart on his sleeve with Arsenal, and he does give 100%. You can't fault him for that. But I would like in winning positions, someone on the bench to just fucking stand up and yell to one of our forwards, stay high on the pitch. Please stay high on the pitch, But he had an awful first half. And what are you going to do?
Who was where he needed to be in the 87th minute?
Absolutely. And it was a great header because he 100% knew that Foster was off of his line and that it needed to be a perfect dink over. And that's what you expect from him, though. And I wish he would have gotten into those positions in the first half to have troubled Foster. But let's give credit to Foster, man. He had a fucking blinder of a game. He was incredible today.
Foster. Well, we have a kind of a way of making, every team that we play in the bottom, half or the bottom 12 of the Premier League, we give rise to their goaltender getting a possible shout for England because, we make the goaltenders look unbelievable. Foster was a 7.6 Opta, which is, other than the way Giroud ended the game, it was the highest Opta score of the game. He was fantastic today, and I'm tired of seeing Fraser Forster and Ben Foster and Forster and Foster and all these Fosters and Forsters look so good against us. But what are you going to do?
You know what? His day was summed up perfectly by that save in the last couple minutes in the match with Ramsey, because Ramsey found himself in a great position. It was an absolute great shot, power, precision, and Foster just had one of those
saved
days.
it with his feet, right?
Yeah, absolutely, and he did that.
Yeah, he made a couple like
today.
that. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. So credit to him.
And back to the Giroud goal. I mean, look, it's one thing to come flying in unmarked or towering over your opponent and get your head on the ball, facing the goal, heading towards the goal, and powerful. But that kind of goal where you're holding off a defender and still get enough power off of the right portion of your fucking noggin to put it past a diving goaltender, that is like we talked about a few weeks ago. That's a Giroud-only goal. Yeah. No one else on this team can score one, and very few people, I'd venture to say, in the Premier League can score that kind of goal. And it was a reminder. Now, it came in the 86th minute when probably he should have been in the game anyway. So, I'm not sure he really did a whole lot to necessarily get rid of his super sub status. I still think he should be coming on in the 62nd, 65th minute, but that's why he's on the team.
Absolutely.
He can have a shit day and still have a moment of brilliance, and that was a moment of brilliance.
Yeah, absolutely.
What do you think about Lucas?
I was sitting there and I kept thinking to myself, like, why aren't we bringing this guy on? Like, what is he doing? And then I thought when he came on, outside of maybe one bad pass to Ramsey when they were going forward that turned the ball over for West Brom to counter, I thought he played really well. He was moving into channels. He was trying to push the ball forward. He worked well with Giroud and the wings. I thought that he deserves an opportunity to get more playing time with us. I thought he played really well.
I couldn't agree with you more. He was absolute class for whatever minutes he got. I mean, the center before the goal, the pass he sent in to the middle where Ozil and Giroud both probably could have thrown themselves at it a little bit harder than they did. I mean, at that point, it looked like that might have been our best chance of the game, and it came and gone. But I mean, Lucas is going to cross. I think Lucas might be ever so more important to put in the game if you're going to be playing Giroud in the middle, because he just seems more inclined to cross the ball, whereas Iwobi seems more inclined to try to beat defenders and get inside, which is also fine. But, you know, tactically wise, I just, you know, I'd like to see Lucas get a couple of starts on the left wing, especially if Ox is out and if you're going to platoon Iwobi with somebody, and it was Ox, and who knows where Welbeck's about to be playing, but I'd like to see Lucas get some starts and see what he can do with it.
Yeah, I don't think he starts on the left wing over Welbeck. I don't. I think Welbeck is an instant starter in this team because his speed, his control, his ability to score goals. Can you imagine how deadly we're going to be with Welbeck on the left and Sanchez up front?
Well, if we think that Welbeck's first start might just be
I think it'll be Preston. Yeah.
If we think it's going to be against Preston, we've got 2 games in 3 days coming up.
Yeah.
Start Lucas on the first against Crystal Palace and start Iwobi on the third against Bournemouth. And let's just see what happens. I mean, we've got 2 guys ready to play the position, and, you know, it's almost like an Emirates Cup type of back-to-back scenario where you got 2 games in 3 days, which is the only time in the year that happens. So, you know, let's utilize these guys and see what they have.
No, absolutely. I completely agree. So hopefully we see some rotation. And the nice thing is, you know, you see the Nacho and Gibbs rotation, and then obviously you've got Gabriel, who is being forced into rotation because of injury. But these are fresher players that haven't played a lot. So I feel like with our team, we can change 1 or 2 players and not ruin the flow of our game. And then I think against Preston, you're probably going to see more of, I bet the Jeff starts, Iwobi's going to start. I'm assuming Sanchez or Ozil will get a rest, but I don't think they both will. I bet one of them will play at least the first 60.
Well, you know, I don't want to jump into our next pod's preview, but I do think we'll see a changed squad, not necessarily the EFL Cup squad, but you know, but yeah, that's for next week to discuss. So for this week, we have the lovely discussion of the Wenger contract.
Jesus.
Now, I've been saying all along, performance aside, I've been saying all along that this new contract was a formality. I'm not saying I agree with it or don't agree with it, but I'd like to at least announce that I've been consistent in saying that he was going to sign another 2 or 3 year contract if he hadn't already. And you know, I didn't believe any of this stuff about how we'll decide in April or this is, you know, potentially his last year. But, you know, obviously this just came out like blaring in the press this week that he was on the verge of signing for another 2 years. So, and it's 2 specifically rather than just some re-signing. So there's some specificity to this rumor. How's this for timing prior to today? So do you believe that he's A, re-signed already and that they're just waiting to announce it? B, that he's on the verge of re-signing for 2 more years at this moment like it's being reported? Or C, that it's just undetermined and this is just another media mindfuck right now?
Well, they said during the match that he was going to wait until April to sign, which gives me the indication I'd go with C. Nothing has been signed and it's just media. But when I first heard about that, I thought to myself, does Arsenal not have a PR team? Because we've just come off of 2 losses in a row. We're fucking way off first place and likely not going to be able to finish first. And now we come out with, you know, you've got half the stadium half the fan base who are pro, half who are anti. And it's just like, can you not wait for us to maybe get a couple wins on the trot and then turn around and go, hey, we've got a contract on the table and he's thinking about it.
Yeah, the time to announce that might have been like in late October. Right. Not necessarily at this moment, but hey, I mean, I still maintain that he's re-signing. I think there's a lose-lose situation about when to announce it at this point, especially with the toxicity right now in the fan base. So, but it's an interesting narrative, that's for sure. Always an interesting narrative.
It needs to happen. And it's so funny when you take the perspective of a United Liverpool fan. They're always don't.
And how do you do that?
Well, you talk to them, which is hard because it's hard to understand whiny bitches, but they know more than anyone else how hard it is to bring in a new manager and keep the same flow and passage. And we know Mike because we've talked about it before. When he leaves, we're going to fall off. It's inevitable because we are not going to bring in a Simeone type of manager that's going to replace him. It's not going to happen. We're going to bring in some asshat that no one's ever heard of that's coaching FK Salzburg.
Leipzig or Leesburg.
Absolutely.
Leesburg is about 5 minutes from where I live. FC Leesburg.
And it's going to be one of those things where we're all going to be dumbfounded by the decision. And
bring in some guy from Nagoya Grampus 8 or whatever they are.
But part of me, when I heard the whole April thing, is because that is the time of season, Mike, where we will know if we're going to make the Champions League. That's plain and simple. He's not waiting to see if we're in the title hunt. He's waiting to see, are we going to finish in the top 4? Nothing changes. So,
and by he waiting, are you talking about Wenger or are you talking about Kroenke?
No, Wenger. Kroenke doesn't give a shit.
No, Kroenke gives a shit whether we make the top 4 or not.
I don't think he does. I don't even think he knows where we are in the table right now.
Oh, jeez.
The guy's a fucking douchebag.
By the way, a lot of people who have been talking about how, and we even talked about this last week in the podcast a little bit, about how Jeff Fisher of the LA Rams, Kroenke's NFL team, got fired, and how that relates to Arsene Wenger. It relates zero to Arsene Wenger because in the NFL, you have revenue sharing, you have a salary cap, you have basically built-in profitability of your team, and you just moved to Los Angeles where you probably held the city hostage to guarantee you 10 years of profitability. So the only reason you would fire or hire a coach is because your team sucks. Arsenal's a different situation. You're not firing Arsene Wenger because he's costing you money. You're keeping Arsene Wenger because he's making you money.
Right.
And so, I mean, I've heard a lot of people like, oh, Wenger better watch out because Kroenke finally fired a coach. That is just absolute garbage. If anything, it shows why Wenger's probably going to stay for another few years. But
I was one of those idiots, Mike. I said that last week.
Yeah, I knew that. I knew that going in.
Thanks for kicking me when I'm down.
I was just, I was referring to people in general.
Oh, I know what you were doing, Mike.
Personally.
I know what you were doing. Read loud and clear.
I decided to wait a week before I dragged you through them.
Let's criticize other managers like Bob
Yes.
Bradley.
Oh, well, let's. I'm actually going to stand up for Brad Bradley. Do you have any critical words to say?
I think Bob Bradley will be fired before any other manager. It sounds like he's lost the locker room.
Let's make it
Already.
clear. He's a horrible Premier League manager. I'm not going to stand up for him as far as being any good at his job. But I mean, criticism for using Americanized terms like PK and road game and field instead of pitch. I mean, he called the FA Cup final the Super Bowl. I mean, what the fuck was he thinking? But
he said that?
No, he didn't say that.
It would have been funnier if he did.
No, my team of writers wrote that. But I mean, they do know that they
hire a team of writers.
I've been looking for one for a while. Do they know that they hired an American to coach the team? I mean, you got to take the good with the bad. I mean, they did it on purpose. So he gets a shitstorm of shit for slipping on a couple of terms, But meanwhile, it's like perfectly acceptable for some revered national team European coaches to jam their hands into the back of their pants, hunt around for dingleberries, take their fingers, pick their nose, smell what the Rock is cooking.
Seriously.
Take their other hand, rummage around. I'm not done yet. Take their other hand, rummage around in their sweaty ball sack, high five a couple of their players, and then inhale their fingers like he bought them from Pablo Escobar. That's okay, but you can't say road game, for fuck's sake. I mean,
yeah, it's a little ridiculous.
It's a little overblown. I mean, I know how strong the anti-American sentiment is, and in fact, I got into a little bit of an amateur Twitter war in the second half of today's game with somebody telling me to go back to America, where I'm actually already here. But come on, I mean, yeah, we use different terms, but they use different terms in Norway. They use different terms in Australia. I mean, that's a little overblown. It doesn't take away from the fact that he's a horrible Premier League manager, though.
Yeah, he is. But you know what? It just goes to show that, Jose can storm out like a fucking baby and gets no ridicule. And then Bob Bradley says a couple wrong words and everyone's up in arms. Mike, do you want
It all comes back to Jose.
Jose. Do you want to hear a statistic, Mike?
I would love to hear a statistic.
Today, Mesut registered his 202nd career assist, which passes Xavi's record for Barcelona. And Mesut did it at just the age of 28.
Now this is not just for Arsenal. This is his career. This is including Werder Bremen.
This is including his entire career. But think about the teams that Xavi played with and how good he is and how good the 10 players around him have been his entire career. And Ozil just passed him. I'm assuming Xavi is somewhere probably in his mid to early 30s with that stat. So that's pretty impressive.
Does that count the people that did Xavi leave? No, did Xavi leave to go to
He did.
To Qatar?
Yeah. I think Iniesta's still at Barca.
And how's that career go? I mean, we don't hear about I don't get the Qatarian games on. I got the Mkhitaryan games, and by the way, what a freaking goal today!
I didn't see it because I don't give a shit.
3 yards offside, but scorpion kick into the net.
Hey, good for them. I mean, if there's any team that deserves to score goals from the offside position, it's Manchester United.
Yeah, let's hear
the victims.
Let's hear Jose talk about the refereeing on that one.
Yeah.
But, we're getting off track. But, yeah, I mean, that's a nice stat.
Thank you.
I love your stats, dude.
I know you do.
All right, so here comes a very special portion of the podcast, which we're going to break out today. It's called the January Transfer Window Preview. And everybody, everyone's on high alert with all the news about Draxler, and we're getting ready to enter that big month that everybody loves called the January Transfer Window. So, and since we have a 1-game week, we're adding this piece in. It's going to be called the January Transfer Window Preview, where we discuss all the players we're likely to sign.
Okay, that's going to be a lot.
All right, you ready?
Yep.
All right, here goes. And that's been our January Transfer Window Preview show. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you.
We will pick up on this in June with our Summer Transfer Window Preview show, which will be equally as exciting. Yes. So
listener questions.
Yeah, listener questions. Because since that segment went over like a fucking brick.
Your mom just stopped listening to the podcast with that one, Mike.
You know what? Speaking of which, I actually spent Friday night with my mom and told her for the first time, despite my discussions about how she used to be our only listener, told her about the podcast for the first time. So this may, in fact, be the first podcast she's actually listening to. And so I am looking for a new family to welcome me in and accept me, because I think I've probably lost her.
Maybe Jimmy from Virginia will accept you into his family.
Jimmy from Virginia's family is gonna need me. Jimmy from Virginia asked us our first question, who I probably will be meeting up with soon. He's in Richmond, and he asks, considering it is currently Boxing Day, which squad member do you think would be the best boxer? Keep in mind, he adds, boxing is as much, if not more, about technique than sheer power.
Mm-hmm.
Andy, what do you think?
This is, excuse me, this is a really good question. And, I feel like if I had to put anyone into the ring at the Arsenal to really go fisticuffs, to have a Donnybrook, it most certainly has to be Gabriel, because I feel like
you son of a bitch!
He's got
Did you not read my answer?
No, he's got the ability to one-punch knockout. With that being said, Mike, I feel like any situation that occurs where an Arsenal player has to get into a Donnybrook with someone else, Flamini comes out of nowhere and just fucking pummels whoever's going in. So regardless, the Arsenal player won't actually get into the fight. It'll always be Flamini.
All right. Well, let me just say that I put my answers into our little communication beforehand, and
I don't read your writer's dribble.
Yeah. Yeah, I apparently, because if you had, you wouldn't have done what you've just done to me. I have to go with Gabriel as well. Even though he seemed to have gotten floored a little bit in recent weeks, I mean, I've seen him picking himself off the ground a little, more than, some boxers that I know. And I actually don't know any boxers. He's also one of the only Arsenal players who has absolutely nothing to lose by getting hit in the face repeatedly.
Doesn't.
I mean, I'm not necessarily voting for him because of his ability to box, but more because I think he could just outlast people by taking the maximum punishment without making his face any worse looking than it already is.
Now, here's a question for you, Mike, because this may change my answer. Does Czech get to wear his helmet when he's boxing?
No.
Oh, then fuck him.
No, that would be a performance enhancing. That would be PEH.
Okay, performance enhancing helmet.
Yeah, and by the way, I also
that
added.
Could also be a condom, right?
It could be used by some people as a condom. Me. Worst boxer, by the way, I decided to expand on this and add the worst boxer would definitely be Per Mertesacker. I mean, there's so much to hit. And once you hit him, he just implodes and crumbles like those videos of when they blow up the football stadiums here in the U.S. when they're done with him.
My worst boxer would be Giroud for two reasons. First, he wouldn't want to get his face hit because he's just too pretty. And second, he falls over so easily.
That's true.
That by the time the punch got halfway to him, he would have just collapsed into the fetal position, stroking his beard.
Stroking his beard. He's stroking something.
Yeah.
All right, do you want to read the next one, or you want me to?
You can do it. Good day, mate.
Oh, absolutely. We have Peter Kennelly, Twitter handle @KennellyPeter, which is very original. He's from Australia, and by the way, I didn't realize our show had a strong enough signal to reach all the way down there, but we're happy to have him chip in some new names. How do you find the relationship between U.S. fans and the club? Could do more. And I am not sure if he meant that the club could do more or the U.S. fans could do more, but I actually have a serious answer to this because this is one area where I'm fairly passionate, and there's no time for jokes when it comes to this. So, I mean, my experience has been that the relationship between the fans or the supporters, let's say, because I don't want to be accused of being Bob Bradley here, and the club is exceptional. I mean, it's truly, truly rare in a very good way. Mm-hmm. And I'll give props to the official Arsenal supporters club called Arsenal America. They've done an amazing job of organizing and facilitating the growth of kind of an organized Goonerdom in this country. And as a result, Arsenal the team itself has recognized and shown that they're committed to our fan base. I mean, we have ticket availability that rivals anything you could possibly want. Just about anybody from here that's going over there to watch a game, if they go through the right channels, can get tickets. The club is more accessible and fan-friendly to Americans than they've ever been before, and probably more so than most international clubs. And, I mean, when they came to the U.S. on the summer tour last summer and a couple years earlier in New York, holy shit. I mean, Arsenal, together with Arsenal America, put together some unbelievable events, access to players, experience for American supporters that made people's dreams come true. I mean, literally. And, while while we haven't come over that much, I mean, a lot of clubs, Chelsea, Manchester United, City, have been coming over here for years and grabbing as much money as they can by playing a game and getting out of here. Arsenal kind of know what they have here now in America, and believe me, it's only getting stronger. And from the fans' perspective here, we have exponentially growing numbers of fans each year that pony up the money and make a trip over to London to experience Arsenal in person. And actually right now there's an Arsenal America road trip where about 40 or 50 Gooners are over there right now. They were at the game today, probably heading over to the Gunners pub or Tollington as we speak, and just enjoying the Gooner life. So, I mean, I think that the relationship between the club and the U.S. supporters is as strong as it's ever been, and long may that continue.
Yeah, absolutely. It's a little different for me, Mike, seeing the Arsenal, and maybe a little bit for you, but I grew up, in North London, and so I got to go to matches as a young kid. And then when I moved to America, I've always followed them, but my wife and I went to the New York trip a couple seasons ago, and she said,
"How come you didn't say hi to me, by the way?"
I didn't know you then, Mike.
Well,
I wish I had. But she said to me, we were in the stadium, and she said, "You're not as excited as a lot of these fans here." And I said, "Well, this isn't my first time seeing the club." And you could just see how much it meant.
Might have had something to do with the fact that Isaac Hayden was playing.
It could have been. But you're right. Then you get to California, and you see the things that Arsenal did to interact with the fans.
Those 2 years showed you the difference.
Oh, absolutely. And I don't think that the first year when they were in New York that they knew it was going to be as big as it was. But I had the opportunity to bump into Chamberlain on the street, and his family and my family live very close to each other in Portsmouth, so we started a little conversation there. And he even said to me, I can't believe how crazy it's been the last week being in the U.S. with all these fans. He's like, we did not expect this. So from the players themselves, they didn't expect the fan base to travel to see them from San Jose to L.A. But then we got into an opportunity where we met some of the other players and we got autographs and pictures. And there was one moment where, Nacho didn't leave. He just took photos with every fan. And so the players went out of their way to make it a great experience for us. And so I would say, because Arsenal are heading to Australia this summer, if you live on that side of the planet, you need to get down to Australia and to go to Sydney, and because you will have the opportunity to have the access and see the boys. And I think, you had mentioned Chelsea came over here and they held an open training session, and there were only 10 fans there.
Yeah, I mean,
and if you went to the Arsenal MLS All-Star game, the entire city of San Jose was red and white. I mean, the fans were there in the thousands. And so I think that there's been a great connection. And, when I lived in America, when I first lived here and lived in Milwaukee, Wisconsin, there wasn't one bar to watch a Premier League game. I had to go into an Irish pub and pay for the pay-per-view to watch the FA Cup final in 2001. I paid the guy to put it on TV. Now if you go to Milwaukee, there's 7 pubs that open at 5 a.m., and they're all jam-packed. And that's fans across all, teams. But that's how much it's growing in the U.S. And so I think the connection between Arsenal and the U.S. fan base has been fantastic.
Absolutely. And that's a great point about Australia next summer. As disappointed as I am that they're not coming to the U.S. next summer, I appreciate the fact that they haven't kind of overexposed themselves here in a sense, and that their visits have been quality, not quantity. I would hope and imagine that they might be coming back next, the following summer or the summer after that. But Australia, Peter, thanks for the question, and I hope that you get to take part in what we got to take part in this summer, because it was fantastic. And I'm sorry there was no smart ass answer to that question, but every once in a while we got to take it, kind of seriously.
Well, what's weird to me too, Mike, is Kroenke owns the Denver Nuggets, the Colorado Avalanche, and the Colorado Rapids. And the Rapids and Arsenal have had a partnership way before Kroenke got involved with the Arsenal in his capacity today.
They're not coming to Denver.
And they continue to not come. And when you drive to the Rapid Stadium, the flagpole, or excuse me, the light poles have Arsenal crest on one side and the Rapids crest on the other. And then just recently they removed it, and I don't know why. I think that they're replacing it, but they have a huge cannon in the corner of the stadium, and then they have a huge Arsenal flag. And whenever the Rapids score, they light the cannon off. And so the partnership there is huge, and so I'm not sure why Arsenal have yet to come to their sister club in the U.S. It seems a little strange to me. Maybe it's because it's a flyover state. I don't know. But
it's because Kroenke just bought 51% of Ipswich Town, so
yeah.
you're gonna have that. But all right, next question. This is a special one because Stefan, not Stephanie, he wanted me to point out. Stefan Gonfier, who is a Frenchman living in Reading. We talked about this earlier. We don't think he's the first person to listen to this podcast in France because he technically lives in Reading. But he emailed us with a question this week, along with some very nice comments that mean our intimidation and hypnotism strategies are working.
They are.
Yeah, absolutely. So he actually said that he likes that we talk Arsenal without being pretentious, which confused me a little bit because I wasn't quite sure what that meant. So I immediately asked my butler, my personal assistant, and our team of writers whether that was a compliment or not. And they were like, "Yes, Mike, of course it is, Mike. You're the best, Mike." And
then you immediately told them to go back to their dungeon.
Exactly.
And put on their leather masks.
I said, "Off with you," and I said, so we would just like to thank the little people like Stefan for their contribution.
Little people.
Yes, we'd like to thank them for their contribution to our art. He also mentioned that when he was in France, he was a supporter of FC Metz. So much like my buddy Rio, he's a Mets fan, but I'm not going to hold that against him. We don't care for the Mets much here on this podcast, but
fuck the Mets.
Yeah, fuck the Mets.
But not the FC Mets.
No, FC Mets are amazing. Anyway, Stefan asks, with the frenzy around Ozil's and Alexis's contracts and their so-called demands around their contract that the media loves so much, what if Alexis has demanded that how about if Alexis has demanded that we sign 9 dogs for Adam and Humber to play with? Which famous dog would Arsenal sign, and which position would they play in? To kickstart the conversation, I'm thinking Cujo as a goalkeeper, Beethoven with Balto as central defenders, Bolt and Skip on the wings, Lassie in the number 10 role. So,
Mike, what the fuck did you just say?
What do you mean?
Like, the only dog that I know is being famous is Lassie, but who the hell are those other dogs?
Well, there's a couple I hadn't heard of before, but I did my research, and had you gone on and looked at the question before right now, you might have been able to do your research as well. So,
well, my butler doesn't know how to use a computer, so
well, you need to get a new butler.
Yeah.
All right. Well, then, do you want me to go first? Is that what you're saying?
Well, considering that I only know the only famous dog I know is Lassie and Gooner, who's appeared on 3 of our first 4 podcasts.
You've never heard of Cujo before?
No. The fuck is Cujo?
Oh, dude, you're exposing yourself. All right, Cujo.
Am I?
Yes, you are. And Beethoven I've heard of before. But yeah, I personally, I've never heard of Balto, Bolt, or Skip before. So, there's 3 out of the 5 or 6 that I've never heard of before. I looked them up because I do research for the pod and I prepare like a professional. And they seem like pretty reasonably good choices. I mean, personally I would add a couple. I'd like to see the Taco Bell Chihuahua. Have you heard of him?
Yes.
Okay. You've heard of the Taco Bell Chihuahua as a box to box, kind of in the style of Santi Cazorla, because essentially they have the same body type, and and the Chihuahua isn't as injury prone. Also, and I'm going to introduce a new dog to the podcast. You were mentioning earlier in the podcast a number 9 that just kind of like sits in there against the last defender, and yeah. So I'm thinking Major, the Great Dane, is going to be our new number 9. And while he's not necessarily famous, listeners, Google Major Great Dane, and you'll see who I'm talking about. He's the biggest dog in the world, 7 feet tall on his hind legs. And he's also from just outside Swansea.
Holy shit, this dog is huge.
Yeah, you see him?
Yeah.
I mean, he's also from just outside Swansea, so he's already acclimated to the Premier League workload. You don't have to, have that whole adjustment period. And as much as I like having a small, fast dog like Arflexis Sanchez up front to work the high press, if you could stick a dog like Major up front on corner kicks, you're going to score a lot of goals.
He's essentially the BFG
Except he's
the
talented.
dog world.
Yes, and he's also really good with his hindquarters to the goal. His hold-up play is impressive for such a big dog. And, a lot of people make the comparison between him and Giroud, but I kind of see him being more of like a Lewandowski.
Oh, my God. I don't know what was worse there. The pun or you saying a lot of people compare him to the likes of Giroud?
A lot of people. Fucking Kyle Martino has made the comparison many times. Both of the Robbies. I mean, everybody. So those are my dogs.
Those are your dogs? Where my dogs at?
Yeah. All right. I'm not hearing any dogs from your ass.
I will say that the Major Great Dane Google images do show some really cute photos of him and another puppy. Definitely worth. Look, we all know that.
Is that bigger than the dog that you saved the life of a couple of weeks ago live on our pod?
You know what? That fucking dog keeps getting out. It's like fucking put an electric fence around your yard, you idiots.
Yeah, Andy's not always going to be there to save your ass.
Twice I've had to run outside now, and I don't understand why they always send their 5-year-old son to chase the dog down. Because the dad or mom just stand at the end of our street, and then there's this kid running. I don't get it. But that's for another pod, Saving Dogs,
and
101 with Andy. For me, because I don't know any famous dogs, because I've lost my virginity a long time ago, Mike. I will say,
which you keep reminding me of. I can't wait until I can join you in that.
I will say that
me with my 2 kids and all.
Someone said to me last week, never bring up the WWE on this podcast again. So anyway, back to this.
Well, when Chris is our guest in a few weeks, you're going to really regret that.
Oh, fuck. Yeah, that's right. Hey, all I'm saying is that if it's going to make Sanchez happy, every training session, they should just bring in a new litter of puppies for him to play with. Because puppies make everyone happy, unless you're Hitler or Stalin. So I would bring in a new round of puppies every practice, and I think that would be enough to bring Sanchez to sign a new contract.
All right. Well, that's a good way of getting through the question without having to name any specific dogs. Very nice. All right. Well, thank you for the user questions, guys. We'll, ladies and gentlemen, we'll keep announcing and requesting them. It's probably my favorite part of the podcast is interacting with the little people.
So we're going to go to the picks of the week, and I'm going to let Mike introduce our next or our picker of the week. But I just want to say that this is fucking awesome.
Yeah.
That we have grown to the point of being able to bring in the likes of our next picker. So, Mike, I know you like to drool over our guests, and so I'm going to let you rhythmically and orgasmically introduce him.
Well, let's be honest. I don't know if we've grown to the fact,
I think
or
you'd
if
like to Arlo White our guests.
Yes, well, then maybe we could Arlo White sometimes if you hadn't been such a douchebag to him.
Arlo White can eat a bag of dicks.
Okay, well, that's someone that's not going to be joining us, but no one else eat any of those bags. All right, going into Boxing Day, by the way, I am pulling closer to getting out of the relegation zone for all of you who are just on edge about this. Andy has 42 points going into today. The guest spot has 34, and I am at 33. So I have just hired Tony Poulos and Sam Allardyce to make sure that I end up, in second for this season. So, but yes, as to our guest picker this week, we have a very, very special guest picker this week. He is a fellow Virginia native to me. He is the North American scout for the Arsenal.
What?
He has discovered talent such as Gideon Zelalem, Joel Campbell, and he doesn't understand this yet, but he's on the verge of discovering my son Jake. He is the first guest picker to have ever scored a goal for Arsenal against Manchester City off of a reasonably good assist from, I think it was Cesc Fabregas. I'm not quite sure about that. He's written a fascinating book called The Arsenal Yankee, which I highly recommend to any Gooner, American or otherwise, youth players, adults. Pick up a copy of that and read his story. And he proclaims that he's awful at Premier League predictions, which makes him the perfect person for this job. Last week I named him as my personal pick for head scout in the question of the week, and this week he's giving us his Premier League picks. Flattery will get you everywhere in life. So welcome to the podcast, and thank you for your picks, Danny Karbassiyoon. So what do we got for this week?
We have West Ham at Leicester City.
Yeah, West Ham at Leicester City. And
is that our shit game of the week?
It's our shit game of the week, but are you not sharing a roof or spending some time with a West Ham supporter this week?
Unfortunately, I am, Mike, and I will
How's
say
that going for you?
His 2.5-year-old son celebrated more when Giroud scored today than he did when Ayew scored for West Ham. So I'm slowly starting to turn my nephew.
Sweet.
Yeah.
Turning your nephew into a man.
Yeah. Yeah.
All right. Well, West Ham at Leicester City. What do you got?
I'm going to go 2-1 West Ham. They are on a 3-game winning streak. I think that Leicester just – I know. Did they win today?
That's a very good question. I've been so focused on my craft that I haven't actually noticed.
Jesus Christ.
All right, so 2-1 West Ham. I have 3-1 Leicester, which gives me an opportunity to pick up another point on you. It's a matchup of the two managers I wanted to sit bedside and watch sleep a couple of weeks ago. And in case you didn't listen, that was the question of the week. I'm not just busting out and volunteering that information. A couple days ago, I actually watched an old NBC Sports hour-long special interviewing Claudio Ranieri about last year. And it was hard not to fall in love with the guy. I mean, he is kind of sweet. But so this week, I give them the win, 3-1 to Leicester. And Danny, who, by the way, his points are worth double this week, not just because he actually is the only guest picker on our show that's ever scored a goal for Arsenal, but because we didn't have a fucking guest last week. And so we're going to count every pick that he has for double. And he, by the way, mentioned that he is the opposite of that octopus from Germany in a couple of World Cups before. So I'm licking my chops here, hopefully having a chance to pick up some points. Burrow at Man United.
Wait, did you even tell us what his West Ham Leicester City thing was?
Probably not.
Tell us what he picked.
Okay, well, picks 2-1 Leicester.
Okay. God.
I mean, come on, you didn't know that?
With someone who's so dedicated to their craft, you would think that they would be good at it.
I didn't say I was good at it. I just said I was dedicated to it.
That's true.
There's a difference.
Borough at Man United. I'm going to go Man United just seem to be winning at the moment, so I'm going to go 2-0 United.
Wow.
But not before Chambers, dick punches, Zlatan.
Nice. All right, well, it wouldn't be a Gooners in USA podcast if not for the dick punch.
Danny's never coming on this pod.
I was just about to say that. All right, well, can Burrow keep up its earlier trend of stealing a point away at the big team grounds? They did it against City, I believe. They did it against us. I'm going to go for them doing it against Manchester United. 0-0 with Ibra missing a PK.
Wow.
And yes, I called it a PK, and my hand is in my boxers right now. Danny has the score as 3-0 to United, and therefore I have another point that I can possibly pick up, and that's a strong pick. Man City at Liverpool is probably the best game of the week as far as teams that you would want to watch that aren't Arsenal. Andy, what do you got?
2-2.
2-2?
Yep.
You sound very positive about that.
Is Aguero back for this one?
Aguero should be back for I'm watching the Man City game right now, actually, not too closely because I do take my craft very seriously.
Yes.
But I think he was supposed to be back for this one. If I'm not, well, no, he was going to miss this one. No, he's supposed to be. No, he's going to miss this one. I'm having an internal battle right now for everyone to see. Yeah, he'll definitely be back for that one, and as a result, I have it 1-0 Liverpool because it should be the game of the week, but it rarely works out that way.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
Danny also has 2-1 Liverpool.
Nice.
He knows what he's talking about.
He does.
So don't fuck with him. Two more games. Mercifully, we're almost done. The Scum actually have a game at Watford this week.
I'm going to go 1-0 Watford.
Okay. That would be nice. I'll be rooting for you to win.
Thank you.
It would be a good time for Watford to resume being sneaky good this season, but they won't. It'll be 1-0 to Spurs, and Danny thinks it will be 2-0 to Spurs. So you have that going for you, which is nice. And last but not least, the New Year's game against Arsenal. In comes Crystal Palace with Fat Sam.
Yeah. What a
fat as ever.
Weird situation that was. With it being against Sammy Boy, I'm going to go with this is going to be frustrating. I'm going to go with a 1-1 draw.
Yeah, I'm feeling that. I have a 2-2 draw with the reverse jinx because the reverse jinx worked today. I had it 0-0 and was excited to have it snatched away from me at the last minute. I have 2-2, which makes absolutely no sense because if we're going to draw against them, it's probably going to be a defensive shit show. But I've never been accused of being good at picking games. So Danny, much more optimistic. Danny Karbassiyoon has it at 3-0 Arsenal.
Nice.
And thank you, Danny. Thank you very much for helping us out this week. We hope to have you join us for a full pod if you're if you're still listening to this one and would like to join us. We'd love to have you. And
I think he stopped listening at your dog bullshit.
Yeah, well, then he missed out. But
hey, Mike, I know the match has been over for a good hour and probably 20 minutes now, but word is Ben Foster's still at the Emirates getting ready to take a goal kick.
That would be and did he not get his second yellow yet?
No, he's still waiting to take it.
Nice. All right. Well, he could be there for the next fucking 3 weeks for all I care.
So
thank you, Dan.
Yeah, thank you, Danny.
Join
we
us
appreciate it.
For a full pod. We'd love to learn more about your story. And again, his book is called The Arsenal Yankee.
And you can find that book at thearsenalyankee.com. Okay, so we've got Crystal Palace on New Year's Day. This is a good and bad time to be playing Palace because it's, you've got the momentum of the boys winning finally, but you've got a Palace team who are going to be sitting with a new manager, and Allardyce, for some reason, Mike, Allardyce loves to fuck the Arsenal over.
Yeah, and it's his first game today against Watford was a little soon for his influence to be fully felt, and you kind of got the sense that with 5 days to prepare, he's just going to be putting all of his fatness, all of his fucking bungs, and all of his everything that sucks about him, he's going to be putting into this game to just make it miserable for us, and it's not a great time to be facing them. Let's just put it that way.
No, but, on the other flip side to that, it could be a good time because, like you said, today they were a little bit out of sorts, and it takes a while for him to implement his system. I'm assuming he brought in a new coaching staff with him, so, I think it's
Does he start Flamini next week again? Because that was one of the first changes that he made today.
Well, I think he does, and the reason being is Flamini knows our team better than anyone. So it completely makes sense that Flamini gets the start.
That's going to be fascinating.
Yeah, it really will be.
Early goal is going to be huge in this one. Yeah. I mean, if it's 0-0 in the 35th minute, then I will start to worry a little bit. But we've got to break through early in this game to make him, make Sam have to change his tactics a little bit.
Yeah, absolutely. Awesome.
And stop selling food anywhere within 10 feet of 10 yards, 10 miles of the stadium.
Yeah.
Because,
dude loves a pie.
Dude loves a pie. He does. So, this week we added 5 more countries to our listenership. I mean, we're pushing 50 here. We got 48 countries. I'd like to welcome Dominica, which is not the same thing as the Dominican Republic, by the way. It's an island that has a city called Portsmouth. And we'd also like to add the Republic of Korea, Kenya, Ghana, and at long last, Israel.
Nice.
So, we're up to 48 countries. I say that when our 50th country comes on board, we got to take the show on the road and do a live pod from wherever country ends up being our 50th country.
I'm down for that. That. So
come on, you mighty Tahiti.
Yeah, really. And let's hope that Wendy gives us her personal jet. You know what's sad, Mike, is I just put into Google how many countries are in the world, and the first thing that came up was how many countries are in the U.S. And I was thinking, why is someone Googling how many countries are in the U.S.?
Was the answer anything other than one?
Well, I didn't click on that. I clicked to find out there's 196 countries in the world.
All right. Well, maybe we need a less U.S.-centric search engine because that's absolutely ridiculous. But yeah, we absolutely we love the reach that we've gotten.
Yep.
Please send us tweets, send us emails. We love the interaction. I'm going to be reaching out to new followers. You're going to get sick of me. But yeah, absolutely. Keep sending the questions, and please review our podcast on iTunes. And you know what? We won. It's 3 points this week. Let's move on to the new year and keep it going.
Absolutely. What do you say? Happy holidays, guys, and we'll hopefully talk to you after another 3 points at Palace.
Happy New Year. Come on, you Gooners.